want to sit up here with me?
I'm fine.
We should get Kathy to yell.
Kathy
Get
did.
Kathy to yell. 'Cause I don't yell.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of
You want to get going because of the audio part?
Yeah. We're 11 up there.
What's that? Okay, we're gonna get started.
At the end of everything, we're going to Justin. We can do it.
Gonna get everyone's attention. Sorry. I know everyone's enjoying meeting and talking. We do have people attending online, and so they've been watching and seeing people pass by. So first, an announcement from Justin.
Hi guys, I'm Justin. Just want to let you know if you are in need of a photo for LinkedIn or something like that, we have a setup in the back here, like very no nonsense, very casual kind of thing. If you're looking for a photo, I'll be snapping some at the end of this when Ken's done. So come and find me in the back if you'd like one, and we'll get that done.
So what we're going to turn our attention to now is business development. This is, I don't know, a little bit of a loaded term. I think for me, it was always one of those things that prevented me from even thinking of consulting. And my journey we'll talk about later in my story, but I'm definitely an accidental consultant. I was a traditional, got my MBA, worked at Procter & Gamble, then I came out to the Valley to work for Intuit, then I did 3 startups, and then I went through a health scare, ended up in the hospital, had spinal cord surgery, which just has a funny way of changing your perspective on life. Changed my thinking about what I wanted for work. And so consulting was a way for me to ease back into work and get more control and freedom and flexibility. So today I'm going to talk about business development because I think a number of you are thinking about entering the journey or starting your journey into consulting, and business development is just a very important element. We constantly get questions about this. And what I want to reassure you is that I think you can do it in your own way, and that's the best way. So it's a little bit of a workshop style. I'm not going to be up here talking for 60 minutes. I don't want that. You don't want that. So we'll just do this interactively. Emily, can you change the slider? Okay. So these are actual thoughts from a real new consultant. And I will let you read these. Does this resonate with anyone? Do these quotes feel like, oh my God, that's what I'm thinking now? Okay. Well, I'll do the dramatic reveal and tell you those are my thoughts. Those were my thoughts when I first started. And I was telling all my friends, like, I'm going to try consulting, but I'll probably get a job later. That's what I would always tell people. And they would say, oh, I can introduce you to so-and-so. They're looking for a marketing director. Oh, they're looking for a VP of marketing. And one of the things I'm really glad I did was I said, give me some time, but I said no to all those things because I wanted to try consulting. You can go to the next slide, Emily. Okay, so first thing is to debunk a few myths. So back in 2004, when I started, I had these beliefs. I thought, you need to be good at sales. And I also had other people telling me that. So that's one of the things I wanted to say. If you're talking to any of your network and they haven't been a consultant before, don't listen to them. You get all this advice from people and they're like, oh, you're going to be a consultant. Well, you're going to have to put on your BD hat and your sales hat. You're going to have to be really good at that. You know, and at the time I was like, yeah, that's true. But if they haven't done it themselves, then the credibility is probably not there. So that's one of the things I believed. The other thing I believed was I had to step out of my comfort zone. And so that was like, maybe I need to go to those cocktail hours and those networking events that I never go to. Maybe I need to, enter into a networking group. I got suggestions of like these different networking groups. And another thing was like, okay, I better get active on social media. Those were all things that I thought. I can tell you today, I've maybe been to one cocktail hour. I didn't join any networking groups. I attended a few events from groups. But then we just kind of created our own. And then the last one got addressed in the previous session about being an expert. I did think that, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. One of the reasons I didn't feel comfortable with that was because I've always been a generalist. I was brand manager at Procter & Gamble, then I was product manager at Intuit, then I was marketing director at the startups. And so I did a lot of different things. I wore a lot of different hats. And so that was one of the things I feared. So that was 2004. I can tell you 2019 today. I can tell you people hate to be sold to. I mean, I think probably everybody here hates to be sold to, right? So they'd rather have a productive conversation. And that's a better way to think about doing business development. It's not about, I'm going to sell you on my wares. And again, this is my approach. Others might work differently. Early on, I thought I had to have my services and packages all lined up. I had it all on a slide. Buy package A, B, or C. Right? That's our branding our background and how we think about things. The thing you need to know is that when you go meet with somebody, they might not need A, B, and C. And they certainly probably don't even think about it the way you framed it that way. So what I have found is that it's better to go, have the meeting, and just have a productive conversation, which everybody can do. Just ask questions and listen. Second thing about the comfort zone, I mean, you can only be yourself, right? So that, to me, that's really important, and something that makes people feel yucky about potentially being a consultant is like, I'm going to have to act differently. I'm going to have to put on a facade of being an expert. I don't think you need to be. And that's kind of the beauty of it. It's like you're in business for yourself. You're coming as yourself, and either they want to hire you or they don't want to hire you, right? The other thing I found this year, Denise, how many new consultants will we meet? Where is she? Oh, sorry. I thought you moved over there.
The sweater's coming in.
Probably close to 350.
Yeah, so 350 different new people, marketers, looking to work with us. A lot of them come across as experts, and some of them are. But what I would say is that often the people that have that facade come across very arrogantly, and they're very focused on themselves. We'll get in the room, and all they want to talk about is how smart they are about what they know. I find that off-putting, and a lot of clients, I think, find off-putting. So, and I think you can see it from the people who are on the panel, right? They're all successful consultants. They would have been successful without us. but it's because they're authentic people, right? And if you're authentic, listen to clients and come up with good solutions for them, they'll want to work with you. So those are myths. Any questions here? Okay. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to move into an activity. Some of you may have done this already, but what we want to do is just do this by yourself. Take 10 minutes to create your story, okay? And you might be saying, well, what's my story? And we have a worksheet where there's a little area to fill out. These are the elements I think that make a good story, right? Who are you? What kind of marketer are you? Where have you worked? What have you done? What makes you unique? You know, what makes you stand out? What would other former coworkers or peers say about you, right? And then this last one is maybe a little bit different, something that I've always found important. Most of the time when you are talking to a client, in the back of their head, they're thinking, why are you a consultant? Like I could almost see it on their face that they always wanted me to answer that question. And Emily, you can go to the next slide. So this is my story about who I am. I always tell people I'm a marketing generalist. Worked at P&G as a brand manager, Intuit as a product manager, then 3 startups as a marketing director. I can rattle that off in 10 seconds. I still do that today. And then the second is, where have you worked? What have you done? What makes you special and unique? And I kind of merge them together. I'm a new product guy, right? So that started even when I had an internship at my MBA internship was with Disney, and it was a new art products group. At Procter & Gamble, I worked on a disposable bib for kids called Bibsters, and then a food wrap product called Glad Press and Seal. That got acquired by a different company. At Intuit, I was the first product manager that worked on an internet product. And it was inside of QuickBooks Payroll. And then 3 startups. So that's the kind of thing that doesn't take a long time, but quickly somebody gets, this is who I am, this is what I've done. And then the third question is something that I think when you meet with people, you just decide yourself whether or not they have that question in their head. If somebody's been a consultant before, which nowadays you find more and more people go back and forth, they know why you're a consultant. You want more work-life balance, you want more flexibility, you want more control. But if somebody's been an employee for 15 years, they have it in the back of the head. And a lot of times there's a stigma like, oh, you must not be able to find a full-time job. Right? So I used to just tell them, I became a consultant because I coach middle school basketball and I teach algebra at a summer school program. And that was back in 2004. And that was the truth. I think part of that is just so they see who you are as a person. Don't be afraid to share who you are as a person. And then the more intimate version is what I would get into if they really wanted to probe in this area. And I would just be authentic. I said I was burnt out as an employee. As soon as I started telling them about my commute from San Francisco to Menlo Park down the 101, I get a lot of resonance because they know what that is. They do that. I know. Right. And then I would talk about the politics and the email and the PowerPoint. I used to always tell people that when I was inside companies, I never got any work done from 9 to 5. That if I wanted to get work done, thinking work done, it had to be after dinner. So I would get back online from 7 to however long it took. But I also thought that's what I enjoy. That time period in the evening is what I enjoy. And I got any distractions, I can actually do some critical thinking. That's the part that led me to consulting, because that's what I think you can carve out. Okay, so maybe go back to that slide. Let's just take 10 minutes here for you to create your own story. And then we'll do a break, and then we want you to share your story with somebody else, and you guys can just see how that feels. think a couple more minutes, and then hopefully you like the person sitting to the right or left of you because you'll be sharing your story with them. Okay. I think I see a lot of people who have their heads up, so they're probably done. And so for the next 10 minutes, we'd like you to find somebody to share your story with, and give it enough time so you're sharing stories back and forth, and just, give feedback on how that sounded with each other. I find that this was, in the earliest session, Lynn asked a question about identity. And I went through that when I first switched to consulting. I didn't know what to tell people. Like, I would go to parties and they'd say, what you do? And I found myself wanting to say what I used to say, which is, oh, I was a marketing director at Homestead and they do it-yourself websites. You don't have that anymore, right? So in some ways, this becomes your new identity statement. So, okay. So feel free to converse with each other. Hello. I know some of you probably want a little bit more time. We will have time after this session to do more networking and talking and sharing with people. I've been told we need to stay on agenda. So hopefully that was helpful for people. I just want to know how many of you feel like, hey, I already have my story. I didn't need this. Mark, I would hope so. Good. So maybe let's jump to the next slide. This one. So next activity is to talk about what I call rules of engagement. And this is one thing that makes business development your own. It's like you get to make the rules. So for me, some of those rules early on I made were, who am I going to target? What area am I going to target? What area of work I'm going to do? How will I present slides? Will I just have a conversation? Where? That's important to know. And then when and how often. And the reason I putting this together is it's not like I knew right away. I experimented a lot and kind of fumbled my way into what's now my preferred method. I can tell you Friday is usually a day I'm doing my business development, even to this day. Again, everybody's different, but I can tell you that I'm playing Frisbee golf. I've never played that before, but I'm playing Frisbee golf next week. Yes, there is. I think Mark knows who this is. And this is a former client that now is, I think he's retired, but sometimes that's important to keep in touch with those people because they're going to know other people who are looking for people, right? Good people always attract business, whether they're working or not, right? And then I have lunch this week with a person who works at a partner agency. So it's kind of a little bit more non-traditional, but we've provided them with leads. They've provided us with leads. They do something different than us. So for me, and I don't know if we have in this next slide, maybe we can flip to that. Yeah, these are my rules. These are my rules that I came up with. I still stick with. Some of this might be logical. Some of it maybe not. I usually target director level and lower. And the reason I do that is because what I found is those are the ones that control the budget. If you want a project, who better to go to than somebody who controls the budget? I've met with a lot of VCs. I've met a lot of CMOs and VPs of marketing. If they're CMOs and VPs at big companies, you might have a great meeting, but they're going to just tell you, you need to talk to my people. So that's fine too. But it's just a longer sell. So what I found was often I would talk to somebody who's in control of the budget and I'd have a project by Monday. So it just shortens your sales cycle. I learned also that those people just are closer to the work, closer to the problems. And so the projects tend to be better projects. All right. So that was my role. I'm still this way, companies of any size. I haven't found that. They're, of course, different to work with. Bigger for me was better because bigger meant I could flex my marketing generalist skills more. If I go into a bigger company, they have some product managers, they have product marketers, they have social media people. And so there's many different ways that you can get hired. So for me, that was better. Anything product related was the area I was targeting. It could be product marketing or product management. That's another thing to think of is that people do try to pigeonhole you, but I think it's safe to say that people define the functional areas different at different companies, right? So a lot of times people think, oh, that's product management. Well, that's product marketing over here. So you often have these weird overlaps. And then I do what I call the Bush or Obama test. It's like, I'm only going to meet with you if I enjoyed working with you in the past. There's plenty of powerful, influential people I worked with that I didn't like. So I just stayed away from them. And then in terms of where, my preferred method was one-on-one. I think I'm more effective just communicating with one-on-one. It's more focused. And my method was always, do you have 30 minutes to have a coffee? I'd love to take you out for a coffee, or I'll meet you in your office. And I always travel to them. So using the two examples I have on my calendar now, Friday I'm going to Fremont. And it's because the person I'm meeting with has a dental appointment in Fremont. And I've been hard to get an appointment with him. And he works in the city, which I don't like to go into the city. So when I found out he had to cancel a meeting, and he said, I have a dentist appointment down in Fremont. I said, I'll meet you there. So that's an example of go where they are. Make it convenient for them, right? It's before the dentist, not after the dentist. And then another thing I like to do is, I'll just say, do you have a favorite restaurant or cafe? Takes them out of the office. That's also a good strategy. They may be more clear-headed, more calm out of the office, and in an environment they enjoy, right? And then the what is. For me, it was informal conversation. Sometimes clients want you to come in the office, and they say, oh, we're going to meet with this person, this person. You might do a 3-on-1. Then it's not that informal. So then you come in a little bit more prepared, right? And then when and how often. For me, what worked was I always left Friday to do the networking and meeting. And so it was always between 10 and 20% of my time. So these are my set, rules of engagement, but you're going to have different ones based on your preference or what works for you more. I think what we want to do now is have you spend some time thinking about that. I don't know if this is the...
How many of those people were people that you knew already and worked with versus was it like introduction and you're like talking for the first time?
Initially, they were all people that I knew. My initial spreadsheet, I picked 20 people. I went into LinkedIn, and LinkedIn will become your friend as a consultant. And I would say all of them.
I think that goes to your earlier stuff you're talking about the cold calling and stuff like that. It's pretty hard to do.
Yes.
Having coffee with someone you know, most of us are okay.
Right. And, the way I think about it is it's always planting seeds. Don't have an expectation that you're going to get work right away. Sometimes that happens, but it's planting seeds. If you've done a good job in the meeting, they now know I'm available. Oh, I know what Ken can do. And magic happens. I mean, Mark is a good example of this. You put it out there enough to enough people, they will talk to somebody else probably. And so it might not be that it's directly this person is going to hire me. It might be my friend over at this company I just talked to. And often when I'm meeting with people, they'll say, oh, I didn't know you did that. I just had a friend last week who asked me. I'll connect the two of you, right? People want to help other people too. So that's, you have that going for you. So I think we're going to take 20 minutes to make your own BD ground rules. It can be small group if you feel like that would be more productive. I think that might be a good idea just because you can get other people's ideas. And just fill out your worksheet. Does 20 minutes sound good or less? Let's try. We'll try 15 minutes and then I'll check back in. Okay. Hello. Hopefully, you all had time to have some good discussion there. Uh, um, Anybody want to share something that they learned or something that they've decided about how they're going to go about doing their business development? Anybody? No.
We were talking here primarily about content marketing, and I was saying how I have worked in content writing for smaller companies, and sometimes I kind of get pushed into writing very salesy content, which I don't think is always the right thing to do. And we were saying how maybe what I need to look at is bigger companies that have already kind of done some branding, some marketing communications, and respect inbound a bit more. So I thought that was really helpful.
That's great. And I know for us in our content area, we have requests that are more like copywriting or ad copy. And there are certain people who are really gifted at that and really good at that. And then there are people who like the long form content writing. So what I would say is small companies want you to do everything, but just, making it clear to them, like, I don't really love the ad copy stuff, but I really like the longer form content will help them just shape what kind of work they give you, right? Anybody else have anything want to share? Okay. So let's move to activity 3. So this part is important also. I just call it building your pipeline. We're going to take some time to talk about, let's first hear some questions. What has worked for people, out of the people here who have been a consultant for a while, and before Mark walks away completely, because he can answer these questions, what has worked for people in terms of getting meetings, building a pipeline?
I think this was mentioned earlier in the panel, but
Yeah.
Keeping in touch with ex-colleagues that you know really appreciated and respected your work,
Yep.
and keeping them in the know in terms of what you're doing, what you're looking for, and really listening to them say, what's keeping you up at night in your job right now? What projects are you all working on? And there might be a fit, or they may think of you in other conversations
Yep.
as people are searching for people to help them with their own projects.
Yep, absolutely. That's the way I found work initially. My very first client I got because I had coffee with a friend, told her I was consulting, and she said, "Oh, I should introduce you to who became my first client, Robin." And that's how it started. So, anybody else have other ways?
Agencies that I've managed in the past, and done good work, made my good work, and worked for them well, and then go back to
Yep.
and get clients looking for small project help.
Yep.
That helps a lot.
Yep, that's a great way. I would say, I did probably 2 years, mostly my own networking, and that was enough for me to realize, like, this is going to be what I do. And so I felt like I needed another avenue to get more work, and it was partner agencies or firms. So it was going back to LinkedIn and seeing, like, are there other firms that might need somebody like me? And then I found 2 firms that I did work with for several years. One was a direct response firm, but they didn't have anyone who knew social media. So I became their social media guy. And then another firm was a product management engineering firm. And they hired me mostly because they wanted to do work at Intuit. And I knew a lot of people at Intuit. So I could be that layer that did product management for them, but already really knew the client. So,
So the
Yeah.
other thing that you do and I do as well is take meetings with little guys and guys who aren't ready to give you work, and just be open to helping the world be a better place, because it comes back around.
Yes.
And some of those little guys turn into big guys with big
Yeah.
budgets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So Mark was saying he does this and I do this too, is take meetings with smaller people and companies, even individual entrepreneurs. And my goal in those meetings I just try to figure out how can I help them in some way. It might not be a contract where I make money, but how can I help them? Because that just helps build another relationship. And you never know where those people land. I mean, I wish LinkedIn was had some way of showing where people have gone and touched each other, because then you could really see, all the connections. Even in our own community, we have a lot of former consultants who are clients now, and we've also had many former clients that become consultants. It's very, very fluid. So
I met Ken. I hired him first.
Yep.
When I was working somewhere.
that's how we know each other.
How did you find out about
Ken through the Intuit Mafia.
Was it through Alan?
Carrie Rosenzweig to Cooper to you.
Oh, I thought it was Alan. Okay. Anyways. Okay. What hasn't worked for people? Let's talk a little bit about that. Anybody have some? Yeah.
just random applications through LinkedIn?
Yeah. So,
The other resume doesn't-
so for those of you online, just online applications hasn't worked. I would echo that. And actually, we wrote an article about this. I think a lot of talent firms now don't actually even meet with people. They just get your resume, and then they let the bots do all the work of matching, which, there's argument to be said that's certainly more time efficient, but it's very dehumanizing, and the chances of you actually bubbling to the top, well, unless you have a relationship with the computer, I don't think that's going to work. I know for me what hasn't worked, and I talked a little bit about that, and this might work for other people. So, Mark, if you have a different experience, please chime in. It hasn't worked for me to meet with VCs, and I constantly get that request. Oh, don't you want to meet with VCs? Oh, I know a VC works with like 10 different companies. And I think the reason that it hasn't worked for me is that VCs actually don't control the budget at all. And it's too many steps removed from the person who's actually going to hire you. Often it's like VC to CEO to marketing director, and so it takes.
I have one VC, really good friend, who's an ex-marketer, who's got me in a couple of places.
Okay. So it can work. Are there other people who can speak to this? What might not work? Yeah.
You need to have a strategy on actually where you post your resume. I mean, I think if you post your resume to say, and I don't mean to bash websites, but like Career Builder, you get these
Yeah.
firms that contact you that don't even look at your resume, but they're just trying to fill,
Yeah.
a construction job.
Yes.
And it's just a waste of time. But
Yeah.
LinkedIn, that's why I like so much about email marketing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's great. What tools do you use to start filling or managing your funnel? So,
Can I go
Yeah,
back to what
sure.
has worked from people? So, Marinella online said that she volunteered for a local organization, created website, newsletter, social media, event planning, and she got a lot of local clients because they saw proof of the work she did.
that's great. It's a great one. Okay. So tools. I can tell you my tools were LinkedIn and a spreadsheet. Very, very simple. Depends on what kind of marketing you want to do and what kind of company you want to have. But anybody else? Yeah. Right now, I don't spend much time. I have notifications that come into my email. So 2 hours a week. That's an estimate. I use LinkedIn to almost like just a database when we're looking for new talent, and I've connected with somebody, then I'll do a search for when we need somebody. So it's good for me to use that because, and we have our own database where consultants' names are in, but my database has people that are not consultants. So we might be looking for somebody, and somebody might come up, and I'll say, "Oh yeah, I remember that. That's a person I can reach out to," and they might know somebody. So I use it a lot for that, but not a lot. I think in the beginning more, probably at least a half a day each week. Yeah. LinkedIn has become more popular and more used. I think it's underutilized because people don't pay attention to their LinkedIn until they need a job. So if you're a full-time employee, that's like you didn't even pay attention. I know that because I'll reach out to clients on LinkedIn and I'll get an email back 3 months later. So, I'm never on LinkedIn. But as a consultant, I would say you want to be on it, pretty regularly.
Especially when you see your contacts change from
Yep.
VP of marketing here to VP of marketing there. You notice something important.
Yeah.
That's a good one to catch.
Yeah, it's I call it trigger point marketing. It's like if you're on LinkedIn and you see somebody who's switched jobs, just leave a note. Congratulations. I'd love to catch up with you when you get a chance. It's usually not the best time to hit somebody up right when they start a job, but about 4 to 6 weeks in, the chaos begins in their new world. So that's a great time to.
You get out the place they just left because they need to know too.
Okay, so the last question here is, do you have a website? Do you need a website? So just curious here, out of the people here, who has a website? Okay, we have some people. Great. And then the second question is a good one I know a lot of people face, which is, do I need a website? I would argue that it really depends on the kind of consultant you want to be. If you want to grow outside of yourself and maybe down the road have other people, or you want to collaborate with people, I would say you probably should have a website. But if you're a solo person, I didn't have a website for 3 years. And I always said, I'm going to get a website. I never did it. Anybody else want to share? Oh, you have a question?
I can
Okay.
read it, Denise, since I have a microphone. Yeah, so the question is from Galena, and she says a lot of clients ask for a proposal to start a proposal conversation, which is basically unpaid work. How do you deal with this?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say that it's a necessary evil. I think the good news is once you've created a couple of proposals, you're rinse and repeat, so it gets less painful. I would also say that you have to be careful about the proposal, because sometimes people use a proposal as a way to shop. I have found that I quickly put together a proposal and I wait, and then later on find out that they were using me as a starting place for other people to give proposals. So usually with our team, if somebody asks for a proposal, we ask them, we say, are you reaching out to other firms, other agencies? So you know what the landscape looks like. I would say it's free work, but it's also just the necessary evil. I mean, I don't have a great answer to that. I would say you could take a step back and say, because I have had the approach where I say, rather than a proposal, why don't I come back with some thinking about what we could do together, and we'll have another meeting. And that usually is better because that develops a relationship. You get another opportunity to ask questions and learn more, and you'll do a better job with the proposal. The thing that doesn't work well is you have a quick 30-minute meeting and the client dumps on you, and you're taking notes, and they said, oh, can I have a proposal Monday? That tends not to work very well for some obvious reasons. What I would say is that if you can avoid the proposal and instead get another meeting, that usually goes better. Okay. So I guess we can go to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, having the conversation and getting to the point where you verbally agree to everything.
Yeah.
You're on the same page. Can you now put that into a proposal? That's much
Yeah.
ideal. You agreed to everything, and now you have
Right.
How's that sound? Okay, good. I'll send you a proposal.
Right. I mean, it's a little bit of a trick. It's like you want to you want to send over a proposal where there's kind of no surprise. They already know what you're going to propose, and that could be a way of you deciding whether I send a proposal or not. Like, once I send this over, is this going to surprise them? If the answer is yes, that's probably not a good time to send a proposal. Instead, you want to try to get another meeting. And I know that's not always easy. So I would say the best approach is you have your files with proposals so that it doesn't take you forever. But when you can, try to have a longer discussion.
Maybe if not, give them calls.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So again, another activity. So take 15 minutes to build out your pipeline. So here's some of the ideas that I have for you, and we talked about this. It's like, let's actually list out who are your favorite 5 to 10 people you've worked with in the past. Even the act of listing them out and then going on LinkedIn and finding out where they are. I mean, sometimes you're surprised that, oh, I didn't know they'd landed over here. Do you know any partner firms or agencies? And that's also the same kind of, like, when I was at Procter, I think I worked with 5 agencies. It was like a packaging agency, a PR agency, a online agency, a direct mail agency, and also at Intuit. There's some agencies that you just resonate with the people there. So that's a good opportunity to go back. And one of the firms where I did work with, a direct mail firm, they were one of my favorite agencies. So I just went back and I had coffee with the owner and I said, maybe we can work together. Third one is, do you know any synergistic consultants? So a good example of this is when I was first starting, I did a lot of strategy, general strategy and branding work, and the natural follow-on work is a designer, right? So I sought out other designers. I started meeting with other designers, and I started testing and working with some I already knew. And it's great to form those partnerships with them because they meet with people, and maybe often what I hear from designers are like, hey, I think they need somebody like you. They don't quite know what they need. Can you go in and help me with their strategy? And I said, sure. And then they knew when I was talking that I would be thinking of them when I put together a proposal, or after I'm done with my work, I would introduce them. So those kind of synergistic relationships are great. And then the fourth thing is, have you considered pro bono or discounted work? So there could be a nonprofit that you feel very passionate about, or even a friend who has a small business that you really believe in. That's a great idea to just put them on your list, on your BD list, and see what could happen there. Okay. Any questions about what we're doing here? It's just go back to your worksheet and really what I'm hoping for is that, we're coming toward the end of the year. I wish I had somebody who would have forced me to do this at one point. But at the beginning of the year, if you want to start doing BD, you can just whip out your plan, and there you have it. You have your story, you have your list of people you're going to contact, and your rules of engagement. So, okay. So 15 minutes? 5? Oh, okay, 5 minutes. So we'll be sharing these slides with you. Whoops, wrong way. Yeah, no problem. We'll be sending them afterwards. How was that? Was that easy to do? Okay, good. Anna, did you have a question?
Sorry, on the business development front, is there a specific time of the year that like you should be more assertive with business development, like how budget planning goes?
That's a great question. Certainly. Is there a particular period or time of the year where it's better to be doing business development? Definitely beginning a year, definitely end a year, right before and after a quarter end. For me, the way I think about it, and this is more for bigger companies, is you want to match where their budget is. So, like, Intuit ends their fiscal year in July. So it gets busy for us in July and August, which is like totally not traditional. So if you somehow know the budgeting process, that is a really good thing to sink into when they tend to have money, when they don't have money. I don't know. Some of it is also just being aware of, it depends on the kind of marketing you do. If you know somebody's just in a product launch, there's a logical set of other things happen after the product launch, right? So, yeah. Okay, I think this was the last activity. Emily, can you? But we do have a fourth thing that we're not going to get to. It's in the appendix, and we'll send this out. But this is more about the post-meeting game plan. And I find that like getting the meeting and then being in the meeting tends to be not that hard to do. This part people get tripped up on. It's like, what do I do now, right? And so, part of it is setting up front. What is your goal of the meeting? And I won't go through this all because I know that we don't have that much time. But that's important to know what your goal is before you go in, right? So, is the goal to win or lose business? I would say that sometimes the best way to think about it and to get on an even playing field is I'm going in there to see if it's a good fit for me, right? Earlier there was a question about can you say no to clients? And I would say absolutely. That's why you're consulting. I would reframe it to think more like you have your own business and you're deciding who your clients are, right? So having a goal of the meeting is important. Sometimes I know that my goal is I want to get to a proposal. Sometimes I know the goal is I'm just going to gain intelligence about this company to learn more. So there's different ways to approach the meeting. And then really for me, the model that's worked fairly well is I want to do two things in the meeting. I want to gain rapport, so they like me, and credibility, so they trust me. Right? So there's different ways to do that. One thing I would say for marketers is the best marketers are good listeners. So you need to demonstrate you're a good listener. So I try to do the 50% rule, which is I'm going to talk half the time or less and let the client talk half the time. And I know that I feel like I've had a successful meeting if what I come back with is like, wow, I didn't talk hardly at all. I got 5 pages of notes, right? Some people feel like they need what I call a security blanket. There was a time where when I first started doing social media, I felt like I needed the security blanket because it was so new. So I felt like I had to come in with a little bit more credibility. And so I created some slides and some thinking, and I put it in a PowerPoint so that when I went into meetings, I could have that. Sometimes I didn't even present it, but it's in your back pocket, gives you a little more confidence. And then the third one should be obvious, which is just do your homework before you go into a meeting. There's some fantastic ways to get information. You can go on their LinkedIn and social media. You can go to Glassdoor, which I would recommend. That might make you not want to go in. Crunchbase is also great, so when they got funding and what their progression has been in their history. And it's really important in the meeting that they know that you did a little bit of homework. And then the post-meeting plan. So this is where I think I just kind of fell into this, but I had a goal that one business day after my meeting, I would respond with 3 potential projects. That just became a practice I use, right? Like, so if I met with somebody on a Wednesday, usually it was Friday, so you had the weekend. But if I met with them on Friday, I would say, by the end of Monday, I'm going to send them an email that said, it was great meeting you. Here are some of the things I heard. Here are 3 ways we can work together, right? And it's what I call doing the math. Because a lot of times there's discussion and neither side is like not, it's doing the hard work of thinking about, and it's demonstrating your ability as a consultant. I heard what your needs are. I can help you, and this is how I can help you. So here's project A. Here's project B. It might not be 3. It might just be 1 way, right? So that's the post-meeting plan thing. The other part of post-meeting is if they're really interested, chances are they're going to look at your LinkedIn, make sure that's up to date. And some people ask for referrals. So be ready, because if you don't know who you're going to put on your referral list, you'll send an email to those people and wait for them to reply. That could take a whole week. That also signals you're not ready, right? Because and Justin can back me up on this, when clients want to hire you, they want to hire you now. They don't want to wait 2 weeks. Usually in consulting, if they need to hire you, they should have hired you a couple weeks, a couple months ago. So, any questions here? I know this is an appendix, but I'm going to go right up to our time. We're up to our time. Yeah. Yeah, so it's usually just a quick thank you for meeting me. This is what I heard, right? So it's like a smaller condensed set of notes to confirm what I heard. And this is what 3 ways we can work together. Yeah, and not too long, but it's just shows you're organized, you're responsive, and that you're thinking, doing some thinking for them. Yeah. Yeah, that's. Oh, so the question from the audience is how to build rapport and not come across as being too eager, right? Is that the question? Yeah. A lot of this I think stems from just yourself feeling like I don't have to win business right away, and I don't have to win over the client. Instead, it's going back to I'm going to focus on having a productive conversation, not selling them, right? The minute you tip it more to you feel like you're convincing somebody of something, if you feel like you have to convince them, then that gets into the land of selling, and that might make them feel like you're really eager. So it's a nuanced thing. It's kind of a feel thing. And it's also good that you pause sometimes and you just ask them, like, what does this sound like to you? How does this feel? What do you think? Right? Yeah. Okay.
Your thoughts on securing trusted referrals for people who are brand new who haven't consulted?
Okay. Yeah. So, I was that way too, right? So it was coworkers, it was just saying, will you be a referral for me? Chances are if they like you, they will be. The other way to grease the skids a little bit is to get a referral on LinkedIn, because you can send that out to a bunch of people. And if those people are taking the time to write something about you, they probably would. And then you could follow up and say, hey, that's great. Thank you for that. Could I put your name as a referral in the future? Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I think at this point, you're welcome to stay a while and talk and network, or we'll be here to answer questions. Oh, yeah. And if you want a picture, if you feel like you need a better LinkedIn picture or a profile picture, Justin is your person. But thank you for taking the time. Oh, and we're sending out a survey, so please fill out the survey. Thank you.